Alrighty, let's get this show on the road. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Alcor is pleased to welcome you all to today's webinar. Alcor is a global cloud advisory and implementation services company serving Fortune 500, government agencies, and other leading organizations in multiple industry verticals across the Americas, Canada, and India. Alcor is also a ServiceNow Gold Services and Gold Sales partner. We partner with leading technology companies, including AWS, FireEye, Microsoft, Okta, Incorda, and 3C Logic. We advise leading businesses on cloud platforms, architecture, enterprise service management, and integrating IT service delivery. We also provide business process consulting to capture, re-engineer, and improve processes that can easily be automated to deliver real value. The Alcor consulting team has excellence in business strategy, cloud technology, and organizational change management. Our ongoing webinar series is designed to inform, enlighten, and start discussions within your own organizations. If you require any additional information after listening to today's webinar, please reach out to us through our website, www.alcortech.com. We have time reserved at the end of this webinar for Q&A, so please feel free to type any questions into the questions section of the webinar dashboard. Today's webinar topic is Are You Ready for ServiceNow SAM Pro? Presented by Sherri Curtis Banks. Sherri is Alcor's Director of Consulting, focusing on our ITOM practice, and has over 20 years of experience in IT in a variety of roles. She has been working with ServiceNow since the Berlin release and has also been a customer of ServiceNow. Sherri has been with Alcor for over 2 years and has certifications in ITIL v3, ServiceNow System Administration, Implementation Specialist for ITSM, and Implementation Specialist for SAM Professional. Alcor is also a SAM Professional implementation partner for ServiceNow. I will now turn the webinar over to Sherri.
Thank you, Jeff. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're here today and joining us on this webinar. We're going to talk about software asset management and what are some of the problems that we are trying to solve when we look at software asset management and put it into the ServiceNow environment. So the agenda we're going to cover in this next hour is the topic of why software asset management and why put it in ServiceNow. We'll talk about SAM Foundation versus SAM Professional. We're going to look at preparing for SAM success slide, as well as a checklist to help you get ready so that you're ready for SAM Professional. We'll do a demo of the Madrid environment, and then we'll have a question and answer section. So many questions around software asset management are why even do it? But we know that is a big expense in the IT industry. And so we want to be able to manage those license costs and risks that come with software asset management. Nobody wants to get caught with an audit and find out that you've got uninstalled licenses or be out of compliance. We also don't want to be, from an IT perspective, having an overabundance of licenses that are not being used. So managing software assets is all about money and cost. And so this slide here, we're really focusing on those two things today. What can ServiceNow do to help you with visibility to manage your cost around software asset management? And what can you do to stay compliant? How can ServiceNow help you with that goal? The second problem that we're solving is visibility. Many times, customers have an outsourced vendor partner that manages their software assets for them, or they might not even have a formal software asset management program. And even if they do, sometimes it's in a different tool, or there's brittle integrations between ServiceNow and that other partner that's managing your software. But what we're trying to do here with ServiceNow, and there's a very compelling reason to put software asset management in ServiceNow, is to create that single platform. Really use the Now platform with all of the ITSM suite, including contracts, CMDB, problem, change, incident, we want to use our software titles and the visibility that we have in that tool to bring it all together. So there's a very compelling reason to have ServiceNow and software asset management together. In addition, ServiceNow provides you with built-in dashboards so that you can actually see, based on your license purchases, what your position is from an overspending perspective or a true-up perspective, and helps you to keep track of that in a nice, professional, easy way to share with your executives. So I wanted to touch base on ServiceNow SAM Foundation versus SAM Professional. I get a lot of questions from customers around what is the difference. And this slide just kind of highlights for you the difference between Pro, which is on the left-hand side, and Foundation, as well as just an older plugin that was available with Jakarta and earlier. And hopefully we don't have very many clients on that version anymore. But I just wanted to point out that if you are new to software asset management, there is benefit that you can get out of just using the SAM Foundation plugin. It comes with Kingston. It's part of the ITSM features, and it does give you some manual normalization and some reconciliation. And it says here on this, just on the screen to highlight this, it's a higher level, but it does normalize and give you reconciliation around publishers and products. And there is a content library. So there's enough here to kind of get you started. And when we look at the demo, I'll highlight areas that you can use with SAM Foundation if you've never really had a formal software asset management program before. But the real compelling product value is in the SAM Professional. And not only do you get performance analytics reports, but you also get advanced features around reconciliation, as well as some actionable remediation options that ServiceNow provides for you. There's the content library, which is also available with SAM Foundation, but you get lifecycle data in the content library with SAM Professional. There's also license harvesting options, usage measuring. I know I'm hearing some feedback here, Jeff.
Yeah, I am too, and everyone is muted, Sherri.
Okay, well, we'll just keep an eye on it. As well as, here I'll continue, software blacklisting, and we've got our publisher packs. So there's a very compelling reason to move into a SAM Professional product with ServiceNow. So one of the things that we want to talk to clients about and get our customers that are thinking about software asset management into the right frame of mind is that we want to prepare this project for success. First of all, I've noted here that launching software asset management is a journey. If your company has not taken on that yet, just realize it's not a one and done type of project, that it's going to be ongoing, that you're probably going to start small and continue to just add as you continue to clean up your environment, because many companies have a number of software licenses that they've purchased over the years, and you might be in a position where you're not even sure what you have. So let's just kind of take a look at the thoughts around creating a successful project. So this first bullet here is really around understanding why projects fail. And it sounds harsh, but we've probably all been on projects that either weren't successful or maybe we felt like they weren't successful. And it just takes it helps to think and do a reflection on that as to why was it not successful? Was there lack of investment? Was there lack of leadership, stakeholder sponsorship? Was there lack of focus or lack of skill set in the project team? All of those things can be turned around, and when you start defining your SAM project, you want to make sure that there's some key things that you're going to look at. First of all, have strong sponsorship and leadership organization in your organization. So have a sponsor that you've got buy-in and will be an advocate for your project. Because like I said, it's going to maybe take a little bit of time to get this up and going. So you want to make sure that somebody's there to clear the roadblocks. You want to have a strong business case. For example, why do it now? Maybe you're either looking at an upcoming audit and you're trying to get all of your resources together, or you just went through an audit and you realized you now need to get your resources together, there usually is something to do with the timing of why it would be successful to bring in SAM now versus wait, and creating that urgency in your business case, in addition to the cost benefit story, is going to be really key to project success. So think about that in advance in terms of, what money saving do you anticipate could be available? Do you think that you're in an over-licensed position? Are you really just not sure at all? Most clients find that when they start a software asset management program, there is money to be saved. And many times that actually pays for the project itself in terms of being able to account for all of the licenses that are used in your environment. So that's just a bullet in terms of making sure you've got a strong business case. The third bullet here is really understanding the impact of change. Some customers go into a project like software asset management not thinking holistically about all the change that will take place in the organization, because software is not an IT process. It's across the organization. Usually IT is managing software installations for your business units and other customers outside of IT. So when we think about the impact of the change in terms of bringing in a software asset management process, we need to think about our procurement partners, maybe even legal when it comes to some software contracts that have been established in the past. We will reach out to business owners that maybe are managing their own software products, but you are looking at bringing those under management from an IT perspective. Maybe there's other things going on in the organization and it's just not a good time to be focusing on software asset management. Just kind of taking a broad look around understanding the impact of what this is going to mean to the organization will help you to bring success to your project. And this last bullet here is really around clear communication. Starting early to communicate with your not only your direct team and the project team, but also the extended team in terms of what it is that you're launching. What is the scope of the project? What's the timeline? What are the benefits? Reinforce for them the benefit case. Why now? Who's the sponsor sponsoring this project? Start that communication early so that you get the organizational support that you need in order to be successful with your software asset management project. If you have any questions during this presentation, please feel free to chat those in and we'll address those at the end. So just quickly here, I want to highlight that Alcor has a value realization lifecycle framework that we bring into our customer environment to help them realize the value that these technology projects are bringing in. Many times they're costly and expensive to stand up, and then the organization doesn't really get the value of the true technology that's been brought in. So we recognize that. And as I was just talking about the keys to successful projects, many of these are built into this project as well. Making sure you've got clear stakeholders, analyzing the impact, make sure you've got a change champion network, you're training your team on the new capabilities, and constantly driving adoption. When you think about software asset management, that is one of the key things, is driving adoption across the organization. ServiceNow gives you a lot of great features and functions that will allow you to have software asset management in a catalog, for example, for ordering. It allows you to let your end users actually see the software that's been associated with their computer or device. And there's visibility that can be a real value. But if you don't have good organizational adoption, then they miss out on some of those benefits. So we really want to take a look at organizational change management and how that can make a difference in adoption for your project. So I want to go through a few items here in terms of a readiness checklist. In the implementations of software asset management that I've been involved with, you do need to start small. Many companies have hundreds of software license packages that they've purchased over the years, and it's daunting. But if you can start small, at least get a core set of publishers and products that you're going to focus on for your product, for the SAM project, then that is helpful. At least you've got a focused starting point. And even within those publishers and products, you're going to find that you've got many versions, possibly even additions, in your organization. So it might look small to start with 5 to 15, but it kind of blooms when you see how many different products are under these publishers. So start to formulate that top list. Now, these aren't in any order, but I'm just letting you know that I do think these are needed in order for you to be ready to start your SAM project. You're going to want to start to gather the license purchase records and contracts for these publishers, these 5 to 10 that you've identified. Sometimes this means going back to purchasing or to your resale partner to get purchase history records, because we want to show that we've got proof of purchase when it comes to asset management. And we need to also understand what we've purchased. Many times, if you don't have a software asset management discipline, you are not really sure what the contract said you bought. Is it per user or is it per device? Is it per named user? Is the contract license that we bought supposed to be used only on one server with concurrent users? You really need to understand the contract as well as what you purchased, so that when we put that into ServiceNow, you've got good accountability of your software asset. The other thing that's key to software asset management is having a good software installation discovery method. Now, ServiceNow promotes a product called Discovery, and it allows the devices in your network to be scanned, and software can be culled from that discovery and brought into ServiceNow into the software installation tables. And we also have dual integration, a byway integration with SCCM. So SCCM is a Microsoft tool that many customers use on their Windows products, and they can also bring software into the software asset management library. But there's two sides to the coin in software asset management. Knowing what you published or purchased, that's one part, and then knowing what's installed. The two of those things come together in an audit and really are what we're trying to do with ServiceNow, is bring you to an equal position where the installs in your environment, which are discovered, are also aligned with the products that you've purchased. Another tip that I like to give my customers in terms of getting ready is review the ServiceNow docs. The Madrid page and London, Kingston, anything with SAM Professional has got some really good information about understanding the process. So I ask my customers and frequently tell them to just, take a look at that so that you get an understanding of what it is we're going to be bringing into your environment. Understand the roles that are needed. Who's your SAM admin? Take a look at what that role does in the ServiceNow docs. Who are going to be your SAM users? What does it look like to have a SAM process implemented in your environment? There's going to be some key questions that come up in terms of, will you be turning on the purchasing, the procurement application, as well as using the contract module? There are other things that support the SAM process. And so getting an idea of what the process looks like and how the functions work before you start your project is really helpful. The other thing you want to do in your checklist of readiness is make sure that you've got engaged with your implementation partner so that you've got timeline and resources accounted for. And if possible, and I highly recommend it, have one of your team members, possibly your SAM administrator, attend the SAM professional training that ServiceNow offers. It's a wonderful course. There is a certification if you're interested in certifying, as I am, but you don't have to certify. Just overall, it gives you a good foundation for what you're bringing into your organization and will help you to maintain it after the implementation process is done and your implementation partner is finished. All right, I'm going to switch over to the Madrid demo and show you some of the features that I think are really awesome. And let me take a look here. All right, can you see my demo environment?
Yep, sure can.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. All right, so I am logged in here as Samantha Boardwell. She is our SAM administrator in this demo environment. And I have put some favorites here of things that we're going to highlight here in the demo. But the first thing that I want to show you is there are two dashboards that ServiceNow SAM Professional in Madrid offer. And this is the publisher overview. This comes from Performance Analytics and is part of the software asset management professional plugins. There's a variety of plugins that you will get with Software Asset Management Professional. They're a really nice high-level dashboard that you can use with your executive team as well. And as Samantha, here I'm the SAM administrator. Let's say I'm taking a look at my software product, and I can see right now, just from the high-level view, that I've got 6 products that are out of compliance. So I'm going to want to drill into those, and we'll do that here in our demonstration. I also can see that if I had a use case here in terms of a Microsoft audit coming up, that based on what I can see, based on my discovery, my SCCM data, and my reconciliation with SAM Professional, I am in an out of license compliance. I would actually have to true up at the cost of $43,000 in order to get these uninstalled licenses caught up with what I'm finding in my environment. So I don't want to have to write Microsoft a check for $43,000. So this is definitely a number that I need to focus on as a SAM administrator. There's a really nice feature here too in terms of our reclamation process that ServiceNow offers. There's a harvesting program that we highly recommend that you use as a SAM professional. And this is based on usage data that comes from SCCM. And there are some reclamation rules you can see here in the left navigation that are set up where we can watch software models for their usage, and you can determine what makes like low usage in the environment. And so if there's $30,000 worth of unused licenses and 43 that I'm liable for, if I were to work my harvesting program, I really would only have about a $19,000 difference. So there's a lot of value in managing your software and using the harvesting usage reports that ServiceNow gives you. So we'll talk a little bit about that in our demo as well. I also want to highlight now there's a lifecycle phase. So we'll drill into each software product, gives you a lifecycle grid that comes from this content library and is available in SAM Professional so that you can see when a certain product is going out of life, out of support and out of life. So let's say that Samantha needs to drill into these out of compliance products. So I just click on that number and it brings me into the license workbench. Now this is also a new feature with Madrid. It's really nice. Kingston and London did not have this, but it's a one pane where I can see all of the publishers that I've got, or all of my products here for software under the Microsoft publisher. And there's a little toggle here that shows me just the ones that are out of compliance. So I can see here, for example, that project is one of my software models that's out of compliance. And when I take a look here, I can see that I've actually got 3 different models of project in my installed environment. I'm compliant on 2 of those, but I'm not compliant on this one, Project 2016 Professional. It looks like I've got 37 unlicensed installs in my environment. So I definitely want to figure out, what those are and see if I can remedy those. So I can click here on my project and get another drill down. I can see the professional Windows 2016. So this gives me another drill down in my license workbench. And I can see here that I've got a per device metric. Now this comes from my purchase agreement because I know that I'm managing this on a device level. This might be also per user or per some other metric that is defined in our license entitlement when we set up those purchases. But it's actually calculating per device. I can see that I've got 100 rights owned and that there are 137 consumed. And that's what was showing up as being 37 unlicensed installs. So this just gives me a really quick look at that. In SAM Professional, I also get remediation options. So I can click here to see what it is that would be recommended for remediation. I can see that I could remove the uninstalled licenses. That is an option. I could also purchase. So if I've got the procurement application set up in my ServiceNow environment, I could click right here on this hyperlink and it would automatically go and create a purchase request for these 37 licenses. Of course, you have to set up your vendor and your cost for that supplier in advance, but we could click on this and it would just create a purchase order. Now, I know in some customers, the purchasing system is outside of ServiceNow, but an integration could be set up, or a manual swivel seat to get this purchase order into your other purchasing system. But it's nice to know that in the Software Asset Management Professional, it gives you these options, and so you can take a look at what you can do to get back to compliance. So let's take a quick look at these unlicensed installs. So because I've got SCCM running in my environment, I can see the device name that this software is installed on. And I also see who it's assigned to, but that's because it's coming from my hardware asset management process. And so I can go after looking to see if I could harvest any of these or remove it from these machines. The other nice feature that ServiceNow Professional here in SAM gives us is these removal candidates. Because I've set up my reclamation rules, every month I can see that there are removal candidates available. And let's just click into one of those. The removal candidates are set up on a monthly basis so that they calculate how much usage is in a month for the user. I can see here that there's a workflow running behind this removal harvesting process. And I can also have an approval. So for example, if I have found that Annie here is not using her software project professional 2016, she hasn't met the usage requirements that I set up, then we could notify her and say, hey, we've got a harvesting program. We're going to remove this from your device if you're not using it anymore. We could send an approval to her manager to have that approved before we would remove anything. And there's also in this workflow the option to actually send a task to the SCCM system, and through automation you can actually have it automatically removed from that device through the SCCM integration. Some customers don't actually do that in their first phase, but they will set up the reclamation rules so that they can get their usage metrics, and they can identify which users are not maybe using their software and they would be candidates for harvest. And you can choose to notify the user or not. You know, again, this workflow is optional, but using the reconciliation rules and understanding what might be available because of low usage is a really good visibility for that software asset manager. Okay, so this is the license workbench. I also have a favorite here, and I'll show you what that license workbench looks like. This is a new tile structure that ServiceNow has promoted here with Madrid. It gives me a quick color code so I can see if my publishers are in compliance or not. And I can pin with this little pin publishers that I'm specifically watching. So I can see here that I've got the Microsoft that I'm watching, and I've got that pinned. And I can quickly see my publishers that are out of compliance. So it helps me to drill into areas that I need to focus on as a software asset manager. And again, you know, this license workbench is new with Madrid. So the next area I want to demo here for you is the software entitlements. So these are all the entitlements that have been set up in this environment for Samantha. She's our admin. And let me just put in project here, since that's the one that we've been using in our Microsoft use case. I can see that I've got entitlement records, which are my licensed purchases. I've got 3 purchases that I've made, and let me drill into the Microsoft Project 2016 license. Now, in the foundation version of SAM, you'll see that these are still called licenses, but in SAM Professional, they're called entitlements. But this is your license record. This is actually what says that you've purchased rights. So there's 100 purchased rights of this particular software model, Microsoft Project 2016 Professional Windows. That's key to tying this entitlement or this purchase to the correct model for what will become then the normalization and the reconciliation of this model to your installs in the environment. I can see that I have a unit cost. So on this particular purchase order that I had for this product, I bought 100 licenses. This was the unit cost I paid, so I have a total cost. And when I do my calculations for true up and also savings, this is the dollar amount that's put onto those licenses. And over time, many customers end up having more than one purchase. This is a blended cost. It becomes, this is my unit cost for this particular purchase, but when the performance analytics rolls those up into true-up costs, it ends up being a blended cost. Let's see, I also want to point out here the license metric. So this is really important for the reconciliation because you want to be able to measure the installations to the correct purchase metric that you have in for this particular entitlement. So this one is coming from our Microsoft Publisher Pack, and you can see that if I were to choose, one of the publisher packs, and this one's Microsoft, I get license metrics that are specific to that publisher, which is very powerful because you want to make sure that you're counting apples to apples, and what you've purchased is what you're measuring against. So making sure that you have this per license metric defined is an important piece. Let's look at this record a little bit more here in terms of, there's a general section here where I can also identify the lifecycle state of my software. This one is in use, and if I was going to retire this from my environment, I would click on this state. I can also highlight here if this particular purchase was for a specific location, or maybe it's a company subsidiary or a department that these licenses belong to. That also will help me manage who those are installed, who gets those installs. The financial tab here is connected with the procurement module in ServiceNow, so that if I was purchasing through ServiceNow, I could keep track of an invoice number, I could keep track of the request line item that came from the catalog request item that ended up in a purchase for this particular license, the cost center, and many clients that we work with also display a PO number here and the PO line item that comes from the ServiceNow purchase order. On this entitlement record, I can also associate the contracts. So if in my contract module, which you have available through the ITSM suite, you can identify which master service agreement this entitlement might be part of. So in this case with our Microsoft project entitlement, it might be part of a Microsoft MSA. And I could highlight that here and also keep track of maybe who's supporting that particular contract. The entitlement record also gives you the ability to allocate the licenses down to a device. If this was a user metric, it would be a user allocation. And what I usually recommend clients do is not start out doing allocations when you are in phase one of asset management. The real focus is on having your purchased rights match up to your installs, and that's where you get into your compliance regulation. But you want to really make sure that you're compliant, and that should be the first thing you're focused on. Allocating it to a device or a user could be a second phase in terms of managing who actually has that license or what machine it's on in terms of an allocation, but it's not needed in order to manage license compliance. Then as I scroll down on my entitlement record, I'll see that I can also track upgrades and downgrade rights. I can see that if I had some additional licenses here available, I could apply them to this downgrade of Microsoft Project 2013. I can keep track of that here in my upgrades and downgrades. And then another really important feature, and this is, I think, really helpful for software asset managers, is a place to keep those license keys. These are valuable, they're worth money, and when they get allocated out to a user and you can't keep track of them, then you've pretty much lost the value of using that particular license title and that key. So ServiceNow gives you an option here in this related list to keep track of the licenses and who they're actually allocated to. And this is also one feature that you could use with your onboarding and offboarding program to, excuse me, you could associate your software asset allocation and the keys to the onboarding and offboarding program so that when a person leaves the company, you can see where their software license keys are and actually get those back so that you can reuse them again. So that, in addition to the software that's installed on their machine, and getting that key back from them, from their installation. All right, so let's see. The first question I usually have my customers ask me is, how do I build all these software entitlements? And with SAM Professional, there is an import feature that they have now added. There's a template that has all of the fields in that software entitlement record available to you. You just download this in an Excel format. You can fill in the rows and columns, and then you just drag it over here to import this into the ServiceNow license table. So all of your entitlements get automatically uploaded. And a really nice feature here too is that they've created an error handling table, so that in that load, if you do have errors, you can work them right here and it's easy to find. The other really nice feature here is there's a license position report that's available. Now, I remember my first installation with Kingston, we had to manually create this report because one of the first things that our SAM administrator asked was, how can I see what my license position is? It was more challenging back in the Kingston version to actually see where you stood with license position. And now ServiceNow has this in a nice report that's just available to you out of the Madrid release. So you get to see everything all in one place. You've got your status here of red and green so that you can see who's compliant and who isn't. You get to see the rights owned, what's consumed, what's needed, what's available, everything in one report. As with all ServiceNow reports, you can, filter down to just what you need. So I could show all of my Microsoft ones. I could look at all of the ones. I can filter down again to the ones that are not compliant, and then I can export out and create an Excel spreadsheet as needed to provide reports to the company. So the next thing I want to show you are discovery models. Now, this is another wonderful feature with having SAM in ServiceNow, and along with your discovery and SCCM tools, is being able to normalize these, and the SAM content library helps you with that. So one of the features, and this is a really, this is what software asset management is all about, is being compliant, so matching your purchases to your installs. So the software models here ties to every one of your discovery installs. And you can see there's a status here of normalized, partially normalized, manually normalized. What ServiceNow does is it takes each of these industry models and products, and it creates a normalized version so that when you can see here your discovered publisher, your discovered product, and your discovered version might not be easy to read or to map up to an installed, industry standard. So it's taking what's found in the environment here, installed in your environment, and it's matching it to a normalized publisher, a normalized product, and a normalized version. And this helps you then to match all of the installs in their various versions or editions, or I would say even product classifications. It matches them all together so that you can get a true count of what's installed versus what you have purchases for. So that's what normalization does. It's a very powerful tool. We also allow you to see what products are licensable. Again, sometimes when you start your software asset management project, you might be focusing on a license that is a child license, or it comes free with the purchase of another license. Those are the things that maybe you don't need to spend as much time on because you want to focus on the products that are licensable. Again, this comes from the content service library. In addition to understanding the classification of those products. Another nice feature that comes along with the SAM Professional is this normalization dashboard. I remember with Kingston, it was, we really encourage customers to opt in to the content service library, because that is where you get the interaction between the installed software in your environment and what ServiceNow can then put into a shared standard for normalization across all users that are opting into the ServiceNow content library. And we would run the jobs, weekly, and the client would say, show me the normalization my status, because what we want to see is as many software titles as you have running in your environment, we want them normalized so that we can be mapping those to our installed entitlements, to our purchased entitlements. So here you can see we've got 85% normalization, which is great for Samantha here in our company. But we're really hoping for maybe a higher 90 or 90+% normalization, which means that the content library is finding and matching to the installed software in your environment. So the higher the number is, the better. And then if you need to, you can manually normalize, and then some products actually get partially normalized if there's just maybe a publisher and a product that it can match to. And then it shows here also how often these jobs run, that the content library updates your ServiceNow environment. So I think that's just really nice for visibility. And in order to say, the progress that you're making in terms of project success milestones, you can say we normalized this many of our installs in our environment, and we're tracking on, a certain number of licenses for compliance. All right, I want to quickly go through these dashboards and leave a few minutes for questions here. So this was one of the first dashboards for the ServiceNow Asset Management product. And as you can see, I get all of my publishers if I click on this top level, and I can also filter by publisher if I want to break that down. I can see quickly my total publishers that are out of compliance. I can click on this compliance summary tab, which is really nice to have these reports running in the background because you always know the current position as soon as you click on these reports. I can see that overall, I've got a $9 million or a $1 million gap here in true-up costs. So as a SAM manager, I need to get on these because I've got 10 publishers that are out of compliance, and I can quickly see who those are. I can also see what my over licensed amount is. So this is another piece of the puzzle in terms of cost, because we're trying to manage our software cost in the environment, is I'm over licensed by 11 million. So I need to figure out where I'm buying too many and not using those. So I've got 8 publishers and 28 products that are over licensed in my environment. So just having this visibility gives you a really rich opportunity to go after cost savings in the environment. And then here I get a removal summary as well. We've talked about these reclamation candidates that come from SECM usage. I get a high level count here in terms of, an opportunity to go harvest 84 licenses in my environment. And I can also see blacklist. We noted that on the SAM Foundation versus the Pro comparison, that Pro gives you the ability to blacklist a model. And if I clicked on that, I'd be able to see that I have blacklisted this Microsoft Age of Empires here, and that's not allowed in the company environment. And so when I find it, I want to make sure that that's removed. And through the reclamation workflow, you could set up an automatic removal, and SCCM could go and remove that anytime it's found. The publisher overview here. Let's quickly go through that. This is where we started with Microsoft as our publisher, but there are other publisher packs, and ServiceNow continues to add new ones with every release. One of the new ones here is SAP, but let me just quickly talk about this. So with the content service and these publisher packs, ServiceNow has made an effort to align with these publishers on subscriptions or websites. So for example, IBM, we can actually have an integration between ServiceNow and IBM's ILMT, which is their license metric library, and BigFix. So there's a connection, and the jobs can actually update this dashboard along with the installs in your environment and give you an overall position between what Microsoft has in their ILMT and what you're seeing in ServiceNow. Got Citrix. And then there's a plugin for SAP. So SAP is a new one. So we have a lot of clients that have SAP in their environment, and managing license structure is a challenge for that. And there's also what we've started out with. This is just version 1, so there will be more coming as ServiceNow releases the next with the next release. But this one is focused on named user types. And this one specifically, I'll just click here to show you that it's out of compliance with 2 of these named users. That's what we're going after here in this first edition. And we can click in here and again see what rights we've owned and then what rights are consumed so that you can get an idea of your ServiceNow and SAP licenses right together. So there's a couple other use cases I want to talk about, and one is change management. So how many times have you had a change request that comes through your environment that's needing to, in this example, upgrade the core? So in this change, we're asking to upgrade the CPU from 4 to 8 core. Well, that seems like a normal request that would come through change management and get reviewed. We can see that this change is in the assess state. But what's new here is that there's a tab for license change projection. So taking the estimated cost from the license entitlement records from our purchases and putting it with this use case of adding 4 more core, we can automatically see that not only would this change in the environment to help the performance issues, would also be a cost to your company. So if we did upgrade with 4 more core, that would mean 4 more installs, 4 more licenses would be needed at an estimated spend of $217,000. So this is great visibility for a company that's, managing their licenses and wanting to make sure that they don't overspend. And when a change request like this comes through, your change control board or the authorized approvers want to understand the impact of this change financially as well as in the technology. So that's a really nice feature with Madrid. And one last thing here to demo for you is working with software asset management and the application portfolio management tool. So in ServiceNow, you can manage your applications, and under the technology portfolio management tool, we can see that our services are also aligned with our software models. And we can see here with that content service library and the lifecycle that I talked about being at the model level, that you get a really clear picture. So for example, if this employee engagement service in the USA was using these software models to support their business, and you took a look at, budgeting for next year in terms of what do you need to budget for, this gives you an idea that you're going to have to upgrade their Windows 2008 standard, is what this particular one is looking at here. I can see when the product goes out of life. So it's end of support here in 2018, and then it's end of extended support here. So I remember trying to create models like this from an architecture perspective in the infrastructure environment so that you could give your customers a visibility to what was going to be needing an upgrade or where they needed to budget. And this gives you a really great opportunity to, right here in ServiceNow, put this information so that your business partners or those that you're serving can see the models that support their business, and then a really good picture of what's going to be end of life and where they need to budget for upgrades. Okay, so wrapping up here, we have covered, I want to pop over to my slide here again so that we can kind of go through a little summary review. So we've talked through what it takes to be successful at a project, and we've looked at the Madrid version of ServiceNow in terms of reclamation and entitlements, models, normalization, and the dashboards. And I really want to encourage you to stop by our booth. Alcor will be at Knowledge, and we're in booth 526. So that's one of the things that I really want to encourage. If you are on this webinar and you want to come and meet me or talk about software asset management, I would love to do that with you. Also, ServiceNow has in their booth a SAM booth located on it, they said, in the main pavilion. It's part of their IT workflows section. So if you're interested in software asset management and you're coming to Knowledge, then I really encourage that you stop by and get some more information about how to manage your software project. So that brings us to the question and answer phase.
Fantastic. That was great, Sherri. Thank you very much. Let me start. There's a few questions here. Just as a reminder, everyone, please use the question section of the dashboard if you do have a question for Sherri on today's topic. Let me just grab this here. This one, you may want to go back to your demo. Are you able to view, the question came up while you were doing the demo, are you able to view these screens and slice by geography? For example, compliance concerns in UK market versus US versus Mexico.
Yes, let me get over to my, so let's go here. Yeah, so in the entitlement record that we looked at, let's go over here to look at that. We can actually put that company, so let's talk about that here. Let me open just one of these records. So here in the general tab, you have the ability to put a location so that you can define if these are actually licenses for a particular company, a location, or a department. And then when you run your reconciliation, you can actually run it by those groups. So for example, I could run my Microsoft publisher against a group, a country, a department, a company. So I can actually break that down so that I can actually manage those license procurements as well as my reconciliation and work, to reconcile those licenses at that like a country level. Did that answer the question?
Well, hopefully, if there's a follow-up, we'll get it typed in here. Is the plugin available for free, or do we have to buy a subscription?
You'll probably need to work with your account rep, but the ITSM SAM Foundation comes with Kingston and later, and the SAM Professional does have a license and is part of a subscription for SAM Professional.
Okay. If my company has purchased the same software title several years ago, do I need to create an entitlement record for each past purchase?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say yes, because what you're trying to do is in an entitlement record, you're wanting to keep track of the proof of purchase, first of all, that shows how many rights that you purchased and that cost. So maybe, 5 years ago, you purchased 20 rights and it was at a certain cost. And then you purchased another batch of those licenses and they're at a higher cost. You want to keep track of those in addition to the purchase order number that actually shows proof of purchase. And if there's been any contract updates as well, that would be in part of that entitlement record. So I would highly encourage separate entitlement records for each purchase that you do.
All right. How does ServiceNow get the software installation records?
Okay, so the install records come from your discovery tool. Could be SCCM, it could be discovery, it could be another integration with a tool that allows us to read the software that's installed on the devices into ServiceNow if there's another integration. But we do need to have the installs, and I would highly recommend that it be automated. I can't imagine how you would do this any other way, but the installations come from a discovery tool.
Okay. Our company doesn't have a software asset management team. What do you recommend?
Okay, that's not uncommon. I would say sometimes the IT teams, and maybe it's usually client services or somebody that works with the end user services, is the team that manages the licenses as well. I would think in terms of your project success and setting up a use case for bringing in software asset management, you might need to carve out ahead a dedicated person that would be working with SAM Professional, whether it's foundation or professional, that you would designate a dedicated software asset management person to take on that role. Because not only is there new learning in terms of the tool and the process, but it's ongoing. Like we said, you're launching a journey. It's not just a one-time install and you're done. Software is always changing. Your environment is changing. There's always processes to be maintained. So at the very minimum, and of course, I don't know the size of the company here, and there's probably some other options or conditions that we would need to talk about. But at the very minimum, I would say you needed a person that's dedicated to software asset management.
Okay. Are the discovery plugins, SAP, Oracle, IBM, an additional cost to the SAM Pro plugin?
Okay, I would say from a discovery perspective, I'm not aware of any additional costs. We'd have to probably take a look at, is there some additional information there around the license structure for each company. But these publisher packs come with SAM Professional, and other ones will be added in the future. Again, they're all part of SAM Professional. And if you're doing your discovery with just horizontal discovery in the environment, as far as I know, that your discovery node licensing covers the software that's installed on those discovered machines. But it's something always to check with your account rep.
Okay, yeah, just to be double sure. Yeah, I agree. Can the contract components be linked to an external contract source?
Let's take a look at that. So we do have, click on one of these. What is it trying to do here? Software entitlements. I'll open a record here. We can take a look at that. This particular section is going right to the contract table. I'll just double click here. So this reference is going to bring you into a contract table. And if you had an external system that was bringing contract records into ServiceNow, you could reference that table as well. Of course, we always recommend baseline, out of the box and using ServiceNow table structure as much as possible so that we don't, interfere with any of the cross-functional value that's provided in ServiceNow. But I would say we'd probably have to take a look at it from an implementation partner perspective to see, what information is in that external system, what's the best way to bring it into ServiceNow, and what's really valuable is keeping that contract associated with your entitlements.
Okay. We started SAM on Kingston. Can we upgrade to SAM Pro?
Yes, absolutely. That's another really common question is what does that take? So you can upgrade in Kingston or, bring it into London and upgrade, or even into Madrid when you do your upgrade. There are a few tables that need to be transferred, but the SAM Professional process for upgrading walks you through that. So from an administrator perspective, which a sysadmin, not a SAM administrator, but if you're a sysadmin in the system and you're getting ready to do an upgrade, there's a few steps that you have to walk through. But yes, that is an easier thing to do from a Kingston to SAM Pro than it would be from Jakarta, for example, to SAM Pro.
Okay. Oh, did I ask this one already? Can the contract components be linked to an external contract source?
Oh yeah, I think we did. We just talked about that one.
Yeah, I thought so. Okay. How are SaaS subscriptions tracked?
That's a good question. So ServiceNow is coming out with some additional SaaS functionality in the New York release. And right now, let's see, I can, if there is a particular entitlement that you have purchased that is a subscription, you can actually note that on the licenses here in terms of maybe something that's an annual subscription. You can see here that there's dates for start and end date of that subscription. So, this might be a place to start with, but I would have to take a look at, the SaaS titles, right, and what that relationship looks like. Here, down here, like Office 365 and Adobe, this is also a subscription-based model, and ServiceNow has a plugin or an integration, sorry, not a plugin, but it's an integration with Office 365 so that the subscription data from Office 365 gets pulled into ServiceNow, and you can use their metrics in addition to the ServiceNow SAM Professional metrics to align. So I would say there's still functionality that's coming around subscriptions.
Okay, right on. Can you create customized models?
Yes, you can. So sometimes a customer might have homegrown software in their environment, and you would want to set up a model for that particular software that you've created. You can create a software model for that, so there's an option to do that. You can also, in the software model, let me just click on a new one here, you can opt out of the content library. So if it's an internal proprietary software that you've developed and you're wanting to track the per user or per device installs of that particular software model, you can set up a model record, an entitlement record, and then you can checkbox whether this actually gets sent to the content library or not. You can opt out of that.
Okay. And looks like the last one here. Can you ingest data from Ariba with purchase data and Oracle for invoice detail?
Yeah, that's a good question. So again, I would look at the integrations, right, between those and bringing that into the procurement model, the procurement application. Looking again at how do we keep this as standard as possible to capture invoices and purchase orders from those external systems. Again, you'd want to probably make a decision about whether or not which portion of procurement you're going to be using, and if you're going to be actually submitting purchase orders from, for example, the remediation options in software asset management, if that's going to be a two-way integration or just a one-way integration with the purchase order data and the invoices. So, some requirements would need to be gathered around that and use cases for building that out.
Okay, fantastic. Just give it another second here, see if anybody else is typing any questions, but I think that's it. I think we're good. All right. So the recording of today's webinar will be available on our website, www.alcortech.com. We will also send everybody in attendance a link to the recording by email. So thanks everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day and week, and we will see you at the next webinar.
Thank you.